Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Um, this is the beginning of a new chapter. I renamed the channel for reasons I stated. I am generally answering to Jet Black at this point. Um, there is right now my youngest daughter and my son are sitting indoors a few feet away from me, and I'm standing outdoors. Ironically, right now is not actually very humid. It's nighttime along the Gulf Coast, but the sky's abnormally clear. The last few days have not been as humid as normal. And I'm sitting here under a not full but very bright moon, uh, recording this. My son and youngest daughter, Simba and Lil Bit, are watching the Malcolm X movie. Neither has read the autobiography of Malcolm X, and now they're going to see it, and then I'm going to have them to read it. I'm going to point out to you, though, some things that jumped out at me from the beginning of the movie. For my generation, it is a must-see movie, and it came on the heels of that movie Glory, in which Denzel also played a starring role as a fugitive runaway slave named Tripp who joined the Union Army, specifically the 54th Massachusetts Regiment. When that movie came out, it was riveting. It was really a movie, and I'm glad that it did, because that was what Public Enemy was rapping about. And even when Public Enemy and Ice Cube and Big Daddy Kane got together with Burn Hollywood, it was because of the lack of movies like that, but the prevalence of movies that had just come out before that, Driving Miss Daisy. And I remember Big Daddy Kane's lyrics. Many intelligent black men seem to look uncivilized when on the screen, like I guess I figure you to play some jigaboo on the plantation. What else can a ninja do? For black women in this profession, as for playing a lawyer, out of the question. For what they play, Aunt Jemima is the perfect term, even if now she got a perm. So let's make our own movies like Spike Lee, because the roles being offered don't strike me. There's nothing that the black man can use to earn. Burn Hollywood, burn. Spike did this one and rocked Hollywood without actually going through Hollywood. He went through Bill Cosby. And Cosby and others came and put that money up to help him. And I honestly sometimes wonder, why the hell did it take these folks 25 years to go after Cosby? Well, that's because that's when they were able to find somebody that they could pay to say whatever. But this also goes to show me that if you're going to try to do something good, especially for black people, you better start off keeping your record clean when you're young. But they're sitting in watching now when there's some things that are relevant to black America's men, relevant to black America's gender war, that are jumping out at your mans as I sit up and I tell this to you. Number one, Malcolm is said to have had a misogyny problem. Malcolm was hard on the women, but he was hard on the men too with regards to the women. However, Malcolm also, when you look at Laura, who actually is a character about whom he wrote in his book, not just fictitious, but an actual religious black woman being raised by her religious black aunt or grandmother. Malcolm stated that the way he didn't mistreat her, but dogged her out really just by cavorting with white women, had her turning to women later on, and he blamed himself for that. Malcolm took accountability for a decision that a woman cannot be forced to make. He still blamed himself. One of the reasons he was patient when Betty did tax his patience was because he looked at what he had done with Laura. Now, did he say that specifically? No. I know that's the case because I know the mindset, because I've done it. He blamed himself. Laura did certain things turning to women, and then he blamed himself. That's not all. Another thing that jumps out at me, and I want you guys to remember, is that when they take you through his mother and how she tried to cope with the loss of his father, but in reality, there was a man that stepped into the picture, kind of resembling his dad, but there was something that was different. You see, this man did not have kids, whereas his mother had 8 of them. And he realized that while his mother was so glad to have this boyfriend, this man looked at the 8 of them and he decided to just quietly vanish from the scene. And then his mom found out that she was pregnant. But the man quietly vanished from the scene because this was 8 mouths to feed and none of them were his. And that man knew she wasn't going to have no more. So by settling with her, he was pretty much going to have to accept the role of stepdad, but not dad. Oh, no, you don't get to have your own, but you get to raise another man's kids. And here's the thing. Louise Little had a type. Malcolm's father was her type, and also this other man was that same type. So Louise Little, kind of like Remy Ma and her cheating, although I'm not comparing her to Remy Ma for the sake of Louise Little. Remy Ma has a type, but Papoose is not psychologically and behaviorally a type, because Papoose, well, you can see it. Papoose doesn't. He's just not the same inward as the man with whom she has cheated. Louise Little was not cheating per se. Her husband passed away on her. But the point I'm making is that second man had to look and say, well, even though these kids are exactly similar phenotypically to how my own would have turned out with a woman like her, this ain't gonna work because, well, let's call it what it is. They ain't mine. And Malcolm even said in his autobiography, he did not blame that man. Malcolm in his autobiography said that man was looking at having to feed and clothe a bunch of kids, none of whom were his. And see, there's a part of men that looks at this situation in women and says, if these children were not in the picture from another man, would I have a chance? And a lot of men start to say, no, I wouldn't. And even if they try to tell themselves, yeah, I'd still have the same chance, there's a part of them that knows, no, you would not. And that's why she's there with you now. That's why these kids are not yours. Because no lady like her would choose you to sire the children. And the men say, no, never mind, I'm not doing this. The men say, no, you're going to fit the guck up out my face with that sure bit. And the men are right to say this. That was taken out. Both were taken out of the movie. Malcolm had to understand this. Mind you, Malcolm was an adult when my parents were still teenagers and later adults. My parents were in their 20s when Malcolm was taken out. Malcolm was knocking at the age of 40. He was knocking on 40's door. As I'm knocking on 50's door, Malcolm was knocking on that when he was taken out. My parents were still in school. As a matter of fact, he was taken out in 65. No, my parents were in their teens, I believe. I was in their teens, yeah. I say this because my mother later, as I've told you all, said that she had to, when she was growing up, parents had to tell daughters about unscrupulous boys and what they would do. When she got up in age and I came around and my brother came around, she was unaware of how much the tables had flipped. And when we were coming up, we needed to be told about what unscrupulous women would do. But many of the parents actually really did not know how many of these broads were out there like this. But Malcolm tried to be fair in his assessment when it came down to what went on between black men and women. And here's the thing. Sisters have called him a chauvinist, a misogynist, but ain't no black men turned around and called him a simp. From him being fair but rightly stating how some of these sisters had abused their power in men's lives, he was seen as a chauvinist and misogynist even by many modern day sisters, but not one black man has set up and called this man a simp because he loved Betty as much as he possibly could. I'm not going to address the rumors that he thought Betty was cheating because those have not been proven to be true or false. Neither his suspicion nor him saying that he had such a suspicion. It's not proven that he said it yet. Alex Haley, while not being a complete fraud, people don't know exactly when and where to believe Alex Haley, but most of Malcolm X's autobiography, though told through Alex Haley, the fact is that much of his autobiography is corroborated by others. So what he told to Alex Haley, a lot of it was corroborated. Most of it was corroborated by some siblings of Malcolm later on. I want this to be remembered. Malcolm himself was a litmus test. And even the reactions to Malcolm in the past and going on right now have shown our people what we need to see. And that is that, frankly, we are dealing with a misandrist army that looks at any black man that does not simp and calls them misogynist or chauvinist. They don't have a problem with these men marrying more than one woman for any reason other than that means that some woman might have to share resources, and also because the men might get too much sexual satisfaction. That's really the issue that they have. They don't have an issue with these men having a wife and a side chick because it's adultery, but rather because that means that the men have an extra outlet for sexual satisfaction. That is what bothers them, because it means that the wife does not have complete and total control. She can't just close her nose and then choke him up. And that's the problem. If it was an issue, if the adultery itself was the issue, they would take great exception to black women messing around on their husbands. They will be calling out Remy Ma for being as trifling as she is. They don't. They don't say anything. They don't care because they feel like that's what you deserve. If you simp, they feel like that's what you deserve. And if you don't, they feel like that's what you deserve. So it means pretty much they hate you either way it goes. And Malcolm took accountability when even a decision that the lady made was not within his control. He still blamed himself for that 100%. He wrote that down. But he was also the kind of man that looked and saw when a deal was bad for men. And he did not think that men should have to take that. And, well, he later on told the women that with the power that they had, the influence that they had over their husbands, they could make or break a home. So he told them how to not break their home. And women had the nerve to turn around even in today's time and say, well, he had problems with women. And I'm going to tell you now, ain't no more Coretta Scott Kings or Betty Shabazes that you or I might possibly ever meet. Just wanted to keep that in mind. Just wanted y'all to know about that. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and get back to Simba in a little bit and this movie. I'll keep in touch. I'll keep y'all posted. As always, thank you all for listening. Black Heart, Black Mind, Blackout. Assalamu alaikum, black heterosexual non-select male power because they don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. Thank you all for flying with us here again on Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice forever.